On our newscast tonight, the former lead prosecutor of the ongoing investigation into the nation's spy agency speaks out and says outside pressure kept him from fulfilling his duties. In response, the nation's acting prosecutor general orders an investigation into the internal conflict. Korea's biotech and biomedical industries are viewed as a new growth engine for the nation, and as such, the government unveils a 10-year plan that includes the construction of a massive multi-billion-dollar complex. And Amnesty International suggests U.S. drone attacks in Pakistan could amount to war crimes or extrajudicial executions. The human rights organization calls on the U.S. government to open up about its drone programs. And much more coming up next on Early Edition at 6.
It is 5 a.m. in Washington, 2 p.m. in Islamabad, and 6 on a Tuesday evening here in Seoul. Welcome to Early Edition at 6. I'm Moon Gon-young.
I'm Daniel Chen. Thank you for tuning in. We begin with the continuing NIS fiasco here in Korea.
The long, winding road that has become the investigation into allegations that the nation's spy agency meddled in last year's presidential election took a new turn on this Tuesday.
The man who had been leading the investigation before being ousted last week told lawmakers Monday that external pressure was undermining his probe, and the acting prosecutor general today ordered a fresh inspection to look into his claims.
Arirang News political correspondent Kim Yeon-ji reports on the latest.
The nation's acting prosecutor general, Gil Tae-ki, on Tuesday ordered an inspection into an internal conflict between a special task force investigating allegations that the spy agency meddled in last year's presidential election and the task force's superiors. Prosecutor Yoon Sung-yeol, who had been leading the probe, was removed from the task force last week for overseeing raids on the homes of 4 NIS officials and detaining 3 of them, all without the permission of his superiors. However, Yoon said at a parliamentary audit Monday that he did report his plan to his superior, Cho Young-gon, the chief of the Seoul Central District Prosecutor's Office. Yoon said he visited Cho's house on the night of October 15th to discuss adding a new charge to the indictment against former spy agency chief Won Se-hun, who was indicted in June on charges of ordering an online smear campaign against the Democratic Party candidate in last year's presidential election, Moon Jae-in. However, Yoon's superior Cho said Yoon never officially asked for his authorization. Meanwhile, the Defense Ministry announced Tuesday that 4 members of its secretive Cyber Warfare Command Unit have admitted to having posted comments online in favor of the ruling party ahead of last year's presidential election. The ministry said, however, that the 4 members were only expressing their personal thoughts and were not given any orders from the top. The clash between the former lead prosecutor investigating the NIS case and his superior has in turn sparked another row between the rival parties. The ruling Saenuri Party has ordered the prosecution to get its house back in order, while the main opposition Democratic Party says the December presidential election was rigged. Kim Yeon-ji, Arirang News.
South Koreans have been warned against downloading online gaming programs as the police say they could have been developed by North Korea to launch cyber attacks on the South. The National Police Agency said Tuesday that gaming programs developed by North Korea have been distributed in South Korea. It says the malware they contain can collect location data and IP addresses and send them to servers overseas. Infected PCs can then be used to launch distributed denial of service or DDoS attacks. Police advise the public refrain from downloading uncertified gaming programs and to back up data and format the hard drive if you suspect your PC has been infected with malware. President Park Geun-hye has called on her cabinet ministers and political parties to make every effort to create a business environment that's favorable to investment. During a cabinet meeting earlier this Tuesday morning, President Park said each and every bill that has yet to win parliamentary approval is directly linked to investment and job creation. Now, these bills outline plans to promote foreign investment, increase tourism, and foster startup companies. She reminded those gathered of the government's target of a 3.9% growth for next year, up from an estimated 2.7% expansion this year, and said the goal cannot be reached if there are obstacles to investment.
The Korean government has singled out the biotech and biomedical industries as a new growth engine for Korea. And as our Kim Yeon-ji reports, the government has already invested millions of dollars building a new complex south of Seoul to get things started.
New medicines, cutting-edge medical devices, and medical research and development. These are just a few of the areas the Korean government plans to focus over the next 10 years to keep the country on the cutting edge of the biotech industry and drive economic development. To get things started, the government is building a domestic complex called Osong Bio Valley that combines facilities for the biotech and biomedical industries, universities, research institutes, and government organizations. The complex located in Chungcheong province is expected to cost $4 billion and will be finished in 2038. The biggest investment thus far has come from biopharmaceutical companies at 53.3%. Korea's Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Hyun Oh-seok paid a visit to the complex on Monday. He toured Medder Biomed, which develops dentistry and surgical products, and met with other business leaders with facilities in the complex. The minister stressed that the biomedical industry is full of potential, with projected earnings of $4 trillion over the next 10 years. He promised to improve regulations, increase R&D capacity, and nurture human capital. The complex is part of a third round of government measures designed to boost investment in the biomedical sector, and a fourth round will be announced in December. Kim Yeon-ji, Arirang News.
Korean exports to Japan are being hit hard by Tokyo's so-called Abenomics stimulus policies, which are weakening the Japanese yen. The Korea International Trade Association said Tuesday that Korea's outbound shipments to Japan dropped by more than 13% in August compared to the same month last year. Exports to Japan have now been falling for 7 straight months. Further highlighting the contraction, the report shows Korea's exports to Japan in August accounted for less than 6% of Korea's total exports. The same figure was at nearly 8% at the start of the year.
Well, Korean shares owned by foreigners has hit a 6-year high amid foreign investors' record-long buying spree, raising expectations of a brighter outlook for the local bourse. New data from the Korea Exchange shows overseas investors held nearly 1/3 of the stock traded on the main bourse and the tech-heavy Kosdaq on this Monday, worth roughly $414 billion. Now, this is the highest proportion since 2007, when foreign ownership accounted for 33.2% of Korean shares. And foreigners purchased $198.36 million worth of local shares on this Tuesday, buying for a 38th consecutive session to extend the longest streak on record. Korean shares recouped early losses and climbed to a 26-month closing high on this Tuesday as persistent foreign inflows offset profit-taking ahead of global economic indicators and company earnings reports. At the closing bell, the benchmark Kospi closed up nearly 0.2% at 2056, its best finish since August 2011. The tech-heavy Kosdaq also finished up 0.5%, while on the foreign exchange counter, the Korean currency closed stronger against the greenback at a bit shy of 1,061 won. With rising life expectancy rates here in Korea, you might think most Koreans were looking forward to long and comfortable retirements. But a recent report paints a vastly different picture of the elderly, who are far less happy than the nation's youth. Arirang News' Polly reports.
A quick survey of people here at this busy transit station in Korea shows that most believe life is treating them well.
Yes, I got married and also got a new job. Life's pretty good.
Yes, I can say I'm happy. Things are all right in my life.
But just how happy are Koreans these days? A nationwide survey by Hyundai Research Institute conducted earlier this month sought to answer that very question, and 41.5% of the some 1,000 respondents said they were happy. When asked what particular factors contributed to their happiness, a majority of Korean men and women said their interpersonal relationships. Good health and satisfaction with their jobs also made the list. But those results go both ways. Survey takers also found that interpersonal relationships and work-related issues were some of the most stressful factors in life. Economic problems and a lack of leisure time were the top reasons for feeling unhappy. Respondents in their 20s showed to be the happiest age group, with similar figures for those in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. However, the average level of happiness drops sharply for those 60 years and older. The declining trend of happiness with age stands in contrast to most other industrialized countries like Switzerland, where senior citizens are generally the happiest demographic. Researchers say the problem is due in part to sharp cuts in disposable income after retirement.
For those 60 years old and older, the public pension enrollment rate is only 15%. That's a large difference compared to other generations. Coupled with a lack of preparation for older age and the rise in single households, these trends have been lowering the level of happiness.
The survey results show an ever-growing need for a wider social net for elderly Koreans to ensure that the silver generation can feel confident that the best years of their lives are still ahead of them. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
Digging deeper, getting to the bottom of stories that impact your life. Talking with you on air and online. Connecting you with heroes and experts to help you understand the world's most pressing issues. News and current affairs at its best with Moon Gun-young and Daniel Che on Early Edition at 6.
Now shifting gears to the economy, Korean import prices rose by 2. The 3 Korean passengers who died in a plane crash last week in Laos have now been positively identified. Korea's foreign ministry said Tuesday that a local search team have confirmed the identities of the 3 victims through their fingerprints. Authorities, meanwhile, are still trying to recover the bodies of 6 of the 49 people who died in that crash, as well as the black box recorder that may hold answers as to what caused it, but harsh conditions in the Mekong River are hindering their efforts. It is the largest Navy destroyer the U.S. has ever built, and it's ready for launch. The first-in-class stealth destroyer will be deployed to the Pacific Ocean next year, a move seen by many as a way for the U.S. to keep both China and North Korea in check. Arirang News Defense Ministry correspondent Han Da-eun reports.
This is a Zumwalt-class destroyer, America's next-generation Navy destroyer. After a bit of a delay due to the federal government shutdown, the destroyer is set to be launched this week and will be deployed to the Pacific Ocean next year. At more than 180 meters long, some 30 meters longer than pre-existing destroyers, and nearly 25 meters wide, the Zumwalt is the largest Navy destroyer the U.S. has ever built. As its sleek silhouette suggests, the most notable feature of the Zumwalt is its stealth feature, which keeps the ship from being detected by enemy radar. The Zumwalt has the capacity to load 1 MH-60R or an SH-60 LAMS helicopter and 3 unmanned aerial vehicles, and comes armed with long-range subsonic Tomahawk missiles and vertical-launch anti-submarine rockets and other weaponry. Often referred to as an aircraft carrier killer, the destroyer is also equipped with an advanced railgun system that has a range of 160 kilometers. Many weapons experts see the destroyer's launch as a move to counter China's growing naval influence in the Asia-Pacific region, and there's no doubt it's already attracted the attention of the Chinese government. The high-tech destroyer is also expected to help the U.S. keep tabs on North Korea, which has continued to threaten regional security with its nuclear and missile programs. Han Da-eun, Arirang News.
The Japanese government has decided to include China among the factors threatening its national security. Well, the decision was made on Monday by a government panel that advises Prime Minister Shinzo Abe on policy This is according to the Japanese media reports on Tuesday. Well, the panel, which will draft security strategy for Abe's cabinet, cited China's increasing defense spending and its growing regional influence as potential security threats to Japan. The Japanese media said provocations by North Korea are among the other security threats Japan faces. The Abe government is due to confirm a 10-year security strategy in December.
Amnesty International has taken aim at the United States for its drone attacks in Pakistan. The UK-based International Human Rights Organization, in a report released Tuesday, said the U.S. has carried out what it calls unlawful killings in Pakistan's northwestern tribal areas, and said some of the killings could amount to war crimes or extrajudicial executions. The report also criticized the U.S. government for a lack of transparency on the drone programs and asked that facts about the strikes and their legal foundation be disclosed. Naturally, if U.S. President Barack Obama and Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif meet for talks on Wednesday in Washington as scheduled, at the top of the agenda will be the use of drones. U.S. President Barack Obama has spoken to French President François Hollande about press reports disclosing alleged large-scale American spying on French citizens. Paris is demanding Washington give an explanation about and a justification for its spying activities. Our Kim Yeon-ji reports.
U.S. President Barack Obama has called French President François Hollande over reported aggressive surveillance of French citizens by the National Security Agency. The White House says Obama told Hollande the U.S. is reviewing its intelligence gathering to ensure a balance between security and privacy. Both leaders also agreed they should continue diplomatic discussions about the issue. The call came after French daily Le Monde reported the NSA eavesdropped on over 70 million phone calls in just under a month, between December 2012 and January 2013. Earlier Monday, France summoned U.S. Ambassador Charles Rivkin to provide prompt clarifications and justifications for the alleged spying.
The information published by Le Monde newspaper states practices that are unacceptable. We have an extremely useful cooperation with the United States to fight terrorism, but this cooperation cannot justify everything. Therefore, we are asking the United States for prompt clarification, explanations, and justifications.
Le Monde says the main targets appear to be individuals suspected of terrorism, but French politicians and businesses were also on the list.
Through the secret PRISM and upstream programs, the surveillance and spying goes beyond the constant and official justification of the fight against terrorism.
When reports first surfaced, criticism in France was fairly muted due to the start of U.S.-EU free trade talks in July. But it now appears the Obama administration will have its work cut out justifying the NSA's alleged actions. Kim Yeon-ji, Arirang News.
Another school shooting in the United States, this time in the state of Nevada, where a 12-year-old boy killed a teacher before turning the gun on himself. 2 students were severely injured. Our Kim Yeon-ji has the details.
Dozens of police cars surround the grounds of this Nevada school as armed policemen storm into the premises. Officials say a 12-year-old student who has not been identified opened fire using a semi-automatic handgun at Sparks Middle School just before classes were due to start on Monday. The boy killed a teacher and injured 2 of his fellow students before taking his own life. The student shot the teacher, identified as 45-year-old Michael Lansbury, who was trying to stop him shooting other students.
5 shots, just pops, just like you hear it from a distance, gunshot. It sounded like from the back of the school.
Of the 2 injured students, 1 was shot in the shoulder and the other in the abdomen. Police say 1 student is out of surgery and the other is doing well.
I will confirm that there are 2 deceased and 2 individuals injured. I want to emphasize that the students are safe.
The governor of Nevada, Brian Sandoval, said he was deeply saddened by the horrific shooting and sent his condolences. Students at the school were evacuated to a nearby high school and classes were canceled. Investigations are ongoing, but it's yet unknown what drove such a young child to commit such a terrible crime. Kim Yeon-ji, Arirang News.
that time of the year when a growing number of Koreans head outdoors to take in the changing hues as nature is about to take on a new coat. And this particular season, more and more are choosing to stay under the stars for a night or two.
That's right. Sounds wonderful. Camping has rapidly risen as one of the most popular outdoor leisure activities here in Korea, with the number of campers expected to double this year to 2 million.
And to tell us more about the Korean camping boom, we connect live to our Yoo Ri-yeon standing by at the news center. So Ri-yeon, camping apparently not a passing fad because it's still quite going strong here in Korea this year.
And what are you wearing, Ri-yeon?
It's my camping attire. So Kanyang, Daniel, the two of you are surely aware of the well-being trend here in Korea, which stresses a healthy lifestyle. We've seen a lot of people buying organic foods and exercising more in the past couple of years. Well, now the latest cultural buzzword these days is healing. People who are stressed from the hyper-competitive society we live in and the prolonged economic difficulties plaguing the nation are now seeking activities to heal their tired souls. And as it turns out, camping has become part of the recipe. So to find out more about the recent boom, I went straight to the source, to a camping ground, to ask actual campers why the activity has become so popular. Take a look. This camping site is right in the middle of Seoul. Due to its location and its spaciousness, the site has become a favorite spot for campers who no longer have to venture out of the city to get a breath of fresh air.
It's nearly impossible to book a camping site here because the spots fill up so quickly. I was lucky enough to get in today because someone canceled at the last minute.
Those who have camped out at the site say it feels like a well-earned break from the daily grind.
We live in an extremely fierce and competitive world. Coming out here in nature, I feel a sense of healing, so I keep coming back.
Camping has become a popular leisure activity here in Korea. The number of campgoers nationwide doubled to 1.3 million this year from 3 years ago. This has naturally led to a boom in the camping supplies market, which is expected to reach $560 million this year, a more than threefold increase from 2010. And camping has gotten more comfortable in that time as well, as campsites evolve to better accommodate campgoers. Each campsite even has a mini kiosk like this, so campers can easily gain access to electricity. The access to electricity is helping campers create a more homey atmosphere. Some tents almost resemble a typical room in a house, while others have even used decorative lights to brighten up the night. From regular campers to office workers, many are treating in a typical night out in the urban jungle for a night under the stars.
Well, Lian, it seems definitely like a very nice way to get out of our daily routines and into nature. And like you said earlier, the man in the video mentioned the word healing. So why is it that people are so drawn to these so-called healing activities?
Well, as I said earlier, more people, both young and old, are feeling the need to escape from their day-to-day grind. Experts say this generation is suffering from a wider range of societal problems than previous generations.
What we're seeing now is youth unemployment, a rise in the number of homeless and early retirements. It's hard to get a job, and even those with a job are facing pressures to retire early. This is creating a lot of anxiety and stress. They are hurting, and they want a sense of healing through leisure activities like camping.
Aside from the societal factors, he said camping became a popular leisure activity as people simply were allowed more leisure time. Korea adopted a 5-day work system back in 2004 and a 5-day school system just last year. So this also explains why more parents and children alike who now have a full 2 weekend days off are spending quality family time out camping.
Well, Lian, you definitely look like you're ready to just get out and go camping right out of work.
Well, the topic is camping. The time is now. Let the healing begin. Thank you for that report, Lian. And now let's go over to our Kim Bo-kyung at the Weather Center for the latest newscast, or rather the weather forecast, rather. Hello there, Bo-kyung.
Hello, guys. It was another bright autumn day in most parts of the country, but temperatures will drop starting Thursday.
Right. I mean, our UDN just talked about camping, but Bo-kyung, I hear the weather won't be so favorable for camping because there's a storm approaching this way, yes?
Yes, actually the storm is headed towards Japan and it won't directly affect us here in Korea. However, there may be indirect effects such as strong winds and heavy rain in the south coast regions over the weekend. Our viewers in Japan should be prepared for Tropical Storm Francisco, which is currently passing the waters southeast of Okinawa. And at this pace, it is expected to make landfall in Japan over the weekend. Moving on to Korea's forecast, tomorrow will be another sunny autumn day in most parts of the country. However, our viewers in the East Coast regions should continue to have a small umbrella with you because the showers will continue. Taking a closer look at tomorrow's forecast, Seoul, Daegu, and Busan hit 22 degrees. Meanwhile, Gwangju tops out at 23. Moving on to other regions, Jeju and Dokdo should reach 20 degrees and Raillimang, Kumgang peaks at 7. That's all I have for you this hour, and I'll be back with more updates after 8.
Thank you for that, Bo-kyung, and that wraps things up for us for this hour. Thank you for watching. This has been Daniel Chen.
And I'm Moon Gun-young. Thank you as always for being here with us. Hope you enjoy the rest of this fall evening, and we'll see you right back here same time tomorrow. Good night.